There are 5 major prophecies in the Bible. Okay, they will all be the signs, these prophecies. Every one of these prophecies lands on declarations made all over the world. And I cannot lie to you, and you cannot lie neither, right? It's right in front of your face. Okay, so nobody can lie about this. I cannot lie. No one can lie, okay? I want you to listen very carefully. The Bible warns of post-human stage, and that most people will be delusional and only the elect will not be deceived. Post-human stage, okay? And people will be deceived all over the world in a delusional state, okay? So I'd like you to listen to me carefully. The Bible warns about post-human stage in the end times. The first G20 was on the 26th of September, 1999. On the 27th of September, 15,000 documents were released. When you read these documents, it's very easy to see why we're in post-human stage, with mental disorders and defects escalating out of control. The aura in our body cells is anti-clockwise, and our body cells go in corruption, corrosion, collusion during the daytime and can only repair 3.5 hours at night time. And they repair less and less every day with every study done for 60 years. Our mental disorders and defects was 2% in 1960, and it's up to 98.7% in the whole world today, with stress, drug pandemics going out of control, with trauma and illicit drugs worldwide, confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia, communication breakdown, self-centered behavior, people trapped in their opinions like actors all over the world and do not know what they do. They can only use 7 to 15% of their brain. A mastermind can use 100% of his brain. And there's a real big difference between a mastermind who can use all its natural abilities with natural selection life in a natural order with his genetic memory and his genetic tools. They said the last human being born on earth that can use his genetic memory with ancestry tools in his DNA was born in 1960 in post-human stage. You can see that on Google, the last human being born on earth that can use all this natural process without any gene defects or mental disorders and with a natural selection with coded right memories in his own genetic memory and ancestry tools in his DNA was born in 1960 in the outback of Australia. So I'd like you to listen very carefully before you come to your own conclusion with reasoning. We're trapped in our mind with mentality in a personality with artificial intelligence and evolution mutation, with grammar set up by atheism generation to generation, engineered this way. We cannot use mental telepathy, ESP, remote UN, telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. We cannot use our aura in our body cells clockwise 24 hours a day. Only 1.3% of the population can, without mental disorders and defects, while every Western world, and 98.7%, has 600 to 6,000 defective genes going out of control with mental disorders and blood clots, myocarditis, cancer, turbocharged rates worldwide, declared worldwide, with stress pandemics, suicide rates, and a drug pandemic and paranoia spreading like a virus affecting fauna, collapsing 38 to 98% nutrition value. Alpha beta bacteria collapse between 50 and 100% worldwide, in 98.7% in voltage reliability, anti-clockwise. The aura only works 1 to 5%. 1.3% works 100%, between 15 and 100%. They can also use their brain between 15 and 100%, where the rest of the world in 98.7% can only use 7 to 15% of their brain. So they do not know what they do with their grammar and their religious, political, and New Age grammar. And people can't believe in that truth because they're trapped with amnesia. They don't know what they're doing anymore. They're using artificial intelligence and the wrong grammar. They lost their in-tune to codependent power. We have 32 biofield senses. And we live in a 5-sense mentality, can only use the 6 sense 1 to 5%. And we can only bear 3.5 hours a night, which means the mind doesn't know what we're doing because it's that artificial with unnatural selection, right, designed like this. But we have a natural ability with a natural process to use 100% of our brain, like you see in the movie Limitless, and we developed a drug called Brett Manna from a plant called Mayung that shows you can use your primordial state to use 100% of your brain with a vortex of information with a universal language, 7-fold wisdom and knowledge. They're called the Ask archives. When you can think instinctively and think outside the mind, you have all your natural abilities with your supernatural power. And people don't have that anymore. So the reality is they found the last human being born on earth that can do every single thing that Christ can with their DNA, the book of life, right, which is in our DNA with a family tree. The Bible's about a family tree and a family tree of DNA. And Plato wrote 15 books about these family trees. The ones that couldn't. And it was one specific bloodline that we're supposed to follow, okay, with our genetic memory, with our innocence, and not create a character in a personality, in mentality. And if we follow the right bloodline with the right tools, we can all do what Christ can and more with a genetic memory and a genetic process. But only a handful of people followed those footsteps and maintained their innocence throughout human history. And they were found in the outback of Australia in 1999, after 1999. They went in the biggest mental health research ever conducted in global history to find the cure of the human condition to save humanity. So no one suffers anymore with longevity. We used to live to be 1,000 years old before we're known as family, because they took our universal language away from us, the milestone of Nimrod. They put us in confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia, with religious, political cults and new nations, so we conquered, debate, and divide in warmongering. Judgmental, competitive creatures all over the world. And everyone thinks they're better than everyone else in all their countries, especially Americans, the most self-centered creatures in the world, with the worst gene defects. 77% of Americans are now born with chronic diseases because their species in denial, declared in 2003. And they don't believe in nothing but themselves, trapped in screens all day with their own self-centered opinions. And that's declared worldwide. They listen to the wrong voice of mine. Worldwide, by Jeremy Gibson, 16,000 top scholars, they listen to the wrong voice of mine and only care about their own opinions worldwide. So post-human states warned about in Revelation was declared in 1999 on the 27th September worldwide. 27 September. 27 stands for the Holy Spirit, Divine Light. Book Revelation 27. Stands for 27 biofields. You have 32 senses. You only live in 5 senses mentality. Your 27 senses is the divine power to command nature with all your supernatural power to do every single thing that Christ can and more. And you can't use them. So you follow the bloodline of the 23rd reptilian seed with reptilian mentality. And you can't live in any truth at all. You can only face the truth that you want to face yourself with a voice mind that tells you to do that in a Christ consciousness that doesn't exist. It's an illusion, imagination. And that's why I'll tell you whatever you want to believe in your own comfort zone and to come to your own conclusion with reasoning, which is nefarious because it's 5 senses in negative fields with a high IQ and artificial intelligence and a visual mutation. So you normalise it with small yesterday non-stop and go through the same revolving door and think you're special in this world as you become more artificial into a transhuman stage in a zombie apocalypse and lost all your biofields. You can't think instinctively anymore. They told you that in the Matrix documentary in 1999. Those who think instinctively tune that program so that no weapon from that can prosper with their biofields in their natural process. And as you can see, Keanu Reeves sits in another dimension and sticks his head out the cave like Plato describes in 15 books and Jeremy Griffiths describes, okay, in the World Transformation Movement with the book Freedom, right, hailed by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the Holy Grail of life. The cure of the human condition is going to save humanity, the crossover, the rebirth, the resurrection. We're not breathing the holy breath of life to recreate the second creation. You can't create, okay, you cannot create. That's your conducting agency you need to create with your biofields within tune to codependent power that you cannot use anymore. So the Bible tells you about post-human stage and the whole world be delusional, and we know that, right, in today's DNA in 98.7% of the population, that they're delusional and living in their mind can only 70% of their brain and has no supernatural power. Can't use mental telepathy, ESP, remote viewing, telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu to predict the future, prevent what's going to happen. They cannot do what Christ can anymore. So harness the power, divine power to command nature. Only a handful of people in the world can. And so therefore it's declared worldwide, post-human stage, 1999. The Bible warns about it and it's declared on the 27th September 1999 on my birthday. September under the scales of justice, Libra. Those 2 dates are so important you have no idea. And it's important you understand that declaration worldwide said your parents are crazy and you're going into 6 max extinction stripped from the 6th sense for the 6th time. And that's spirituality. Okay, spirituality, because people replaced it with mentality and now they have amnesia, trapped in a reincarnation trap and keep coming back. Christ learned life after life And he learned about reincarnation. At 24, he woke up and said, I'm son of David, son of Abraham. So he knows this genetic memory and this genetic process. Now, people's trapped in their mind with amnesia and have no faith at all in this. Well, I brought a lot of information out about the most powerful miracles ever created in modern history that proves this, especially in 1990 in the Kempsey bus accident. I suggest you watch the videos, a link to this post, and listen to the most powerful miracles ever created in modern history and the warnings that come with it about the reincarnation trap and getting one more final chance. And the last opportunity is the 27th September 1960 on the New York climate clock, 7-year countdown, a 2-minute video you see on YouTube. 2:20 to 2:27, and the clock displayed to the 27th September, a 7-year lay. The Bible warns about a 7-year lay, Jacob's trouble, and that's a Neuralink tree of life, Jacob's ladder. Jacob's ladder doesn't work in 98.7% of the population, right, with their sacred secretion in the third eye to think instinctively outside the mind, to see the light bulb that tells you the picture that tells you how work can lie to you, a universal language. With their gut feeling survival mode, they can feel the chakra, so powerful it's a self-preservation of life, with 130 nucleoside molecules genetic repair kits that goes into longevity and preserves DNA for 1,000 years when you live outside the mind in your primordial state. So the movie illustrates that how a person comes out of a shell and gets a clarification and uses 100% of his brain with a drug that Moses and Christ used from a plant called man, called red manna. We developed that drug in the underground world in Australia on every testing centre, brought people back to the primordial state in the biggest malab research and DNA study ever done to find the cure of the human condition is going to save humanity. One man will come with the most powerful declarations and signs on earth to cure the human condition, to resurrect humanity and protect the elect. 5 biblical signs, 5 declarations made worldwide, 5 lands on this date of birth. They said the last human beings born 1960. In 2008, they found my DNA, and I'm born the 27th September. Holy Spirit, divine light, scales for justice. 1960 is a metal rat. Go look at Chinese astrology sign. A metal rat is a king of all kings. Christ was a king of all kings. In his primordial state, he knew what he was doing. One man will come with the most powerful biblical signs. The declaration says it all on my date of birth. The New York climate clock end date 27 September, exactly 2,000 years from the date that Christ was baptized by John on the 27th September 27. Can't make it up. Scholars know this, been declared worldwide. In the middle of 7, you'll see 2 moons. In the middle of 7, you'll see a supernova. Daniel 9:27 lands on my date of birth once again. September 27, the middle of 7, Jacob's trouble. You'll see a supernova in the middle of 7. On that day last year, in 2024, on that very day, the middle of 7, between 2:20 and 2:27, the 7-year lane, the middle of 7, Jacob's trouble, Jacob's star goes into supernova, and orbs of light come from heaven to earth and opens up the portal and puts the world in checkmate worldwide. Can't make it up. You saw the stars within the stars, warned in the Bible. The orbs of light coming all over the earth and stop the nuclear wars worldwide and put them in checkmate. The Extinction Rebellion that was working against the 6 mass extinction strip in the 6th sense, starting the outback of Australia with their primordial skills, shut down every capital cities around Australia, standing against the capitalism and monopolisation by the oil giants and by all the Americans and their New World Order and WF, standing deadly against the World Depopulation Plan. The 6 mass extinction strip in the 6th sense, 6 time, Book Revelation 27. The Extinction Rebellion grew to 330 million. The Bible says, I'll come with the biggest army the world's ever seen. Not 250 million, but 335 million people. I want you to go to Google. On the 27th September 2019, the Bible warns the oldest Jerusalem church would burn, the oldest acting church. That was the Church of Nostradamus 2019. The warning in the Bible. Nostradamus predicted in the time of the 45th president of 21st century would be the rise of the 27-year war against the Antichrist and the 7-year lay. 2:20, you felt the zombie apocalypse coming across the planet. But on the 27th September 2019, go look on Google. The Extinction Rebellion on the 20th of September, started the movement against the climate and the World Wide Web and the WF and the oil giants and the cartels. From the streets, street warriors they were. They started from the streets. They were outlaws that stood against the system and shut every capital city down in Australia. Sydney and Melbourne, the whole lot, and cost them billions of dollars. They moved a movement they knew when the world was mentally insane and living a speech in 2003 on screens all day. Then they moved the Extinction Rebellion for the next 20 years from 1999 to 2019. And the warnings in the Bible with the oldest Jerusalem church will burn, acting church of Nostradamus burnt in 2019. That biblical prophecy unfolded. And Nostradamus predicted it perfectly. The very date and the very time. Perfect. The 27-year war against the Antichrist. The last timeline to Sept was 700 years. The last 7 years is 220 to 227. That's the last 7 years in the crossover. The Rockefellers excluded their plan with a placebo effect anti-clockwise with a fate document in 1920 with 5 inflection points to be finished and executed by 220. And they executed that plan perfectly on 220. On a document that came out in 1920 to be executed by 220 in 100 years, right, to invert the placebo effect, and it worked on 98.7% of the population perfectly. They engineered a mind control weapon in such a way that it was controlled by the mind, with a voice of mind, ultimately designed for extinction, declared by Jim McGivis. And they did it perfectly, withering the consumer and every unnatural selection into their conscious mind, and mental bent and mental process and illusion imagination, set up by the Rockefellers in 1640 to trap them into their mind in the biggest soul trap in human history, right, by WF, the conscious singularity, the mental mind, the mentality. And everybody's living in their mind now, perfectly developed by the Rockefellers, the fallen angels. Set up with every unnatural selection, everything they consume under the secret covenant, and everyone went into it and live in denial about it at the same time. Completely beyond the point of a certain majority. Species in denial declared 2003. And because they were declared in denial, the Extinction Rebellion moved across the world. They found my DNA in 2008, the most authentic DNA in the world, number one primordial being that started all this in the underground world with the star category, and moved the whole movement, right, with their natural selection and natural order, with a drug called manna, bred manna, on every testing center. And that Extinction Rebellion, even though I went to prison for 10 years, it kept moving like you got no idea. It kept moving like you got no idea. So by 2019, as you can see in Google, they went to 4,500 locations worldwide in 150 countries and shut capital cities down worldwide, even New York. Time Traveler 227 stands there without a person in that place in the same locations. And they took Time Traveler 227 down because it was set up deliberately and they don't know how. They can't work it out. I am Time Traveler 227, 2,000 years when Christ was baptized by John, on that date of birth, the end of the new climate clock, to the day. I'm 27. Keanu Reeves is 27. Lilu, the fifth element's 84. The mother of creation. The two elements, the two pillars of salt. Mary and Christ, you will not know who we are. The two witnesses, the wedding of the bride, will be mainstream media all over the world. On the 27th July 2022, in Denmark Square, when Tour de France Danish person won, we walked out on cameras and 7,000 cameras worldwide. The wedding, the bride, and the two witnesses. Mainstream media worldwide, and that happened in 2022 on the 27th of July. The world's biggest army was 335 million people that shut every capital city down worldwide in 2019. From 220, they started this plan, and you will see on 27 September 2019, on that day, they went 4,500 locations in 150 countries of the world and shut every capital city down. The Bible warns this, and it happened. And you didn't care. You were too polarized into yourself, standing by Baal and standing by the system and support the system of consent every day. You did not support the Extinction Rebellion. Christ will come back and move the biggest army. You will not know who he is, but you'll know by the tools and all the signs. And the declarations made on the 27th September on every declaration. You see 2 moons in the middle of 7 and 4 days after last year's supernova and Daniel 9:27. 2 powerful prophecies land on my date of birth again. 4 days after, on the 1st of October, 2 moons. 3 powerful prophecies last year on the 27th September and the 1st October. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. Okay? The declarations are all made with biblical prophecies landing perfectly and declared worldwide on my date of birth, because I'm the only one. And I'm the only one that seems to know as well. Isn't that funny? I cannot lie. I'm designed for this moment, and I'm the only one that comes with the resurrection, protect the elect, to save humanity and save their soul. And you will not know who I am, but you know by the moons and the stars and the signs. And I'll come from the cave of prison with the tooth of masses, with fire come out map in raggedy clothes, like a thief in the night, with shining armor, with the truth. That's going to set the world free. With liberation, with the resurrection, with the rebirth, and protect the elect, with DNA studies done, the book of life, the book by Jeremy Givers, DNA, the book by Jeremy Givers, the book Freedom, held by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the Holy Grail of life, with natural selection and natural order, with we're not breathing, is won a Nobel Prize to recreate the sacred secretion, to restore your biological genes with Jacob's ladder, the Neuralink. On the 1st October 27, Christ went to the Samaritan woman and told her about deja vu into the past and 5 husbands 20 years before he was born. You could see in the past the future. He knew who he was. He identified who he was that day. So the 2 moons represents 98.7% anti-clockwise involved in their DNA. They're all anti-clockwise involved in their cells. And corruption, corrosion, 98.7%. Okay, that's a big moon. And the little moon represents 1.3% clockwise, and that's on DNA studies with cellular study research, and you cannot make it up, which means 1.3% has gone back in the primordial state through natural selection and natural order and will be saved because they're in spirituality. So that proves that 98.7% on the big moon, you can't make up in DNA with aura anti-clockwise. It's in a massive global delusion state. And only 1.3% goes through the book Freedom by Jeremy Givers and will not be the program to go back in the primordial state with natural selection and natural order in life. These are facts. They're the only ones that resurrect and cross back over the primordial state. And Aboriginals, 500 years old, Shiller masterminds, 257 years old with persevering, and their natural abilities and their natural selection in life. It's only a handful of people in the world. And Westerns are completely oblivious to this. Because they don't believe in biblical signs, in the prophecies. They don't believe in the declaration made on my date of birth, and the most powerful declaration made worldwide, right in front of their face, with the moons and the stars. And you were told, I will leave my mark on earth and write the books that unfold with them from perfect deja vu and predict the future perfectly, from 220 to 227, the 7-year lay. And this is the 7-year crossover. The 7-year crossover, 220 to 227, is also the first 7 years of the new timeline of sevenfold wisdoms in a new era to live in the tree of life. Natural selection and natural order. The crossover is 220, 227, and it will end on the 27th September 227, exactly 2,000 years when Christ was baptized by John, 27 September 27. And that's not a joke. The Vatican knows. Kim Clement predicted in 2013, 227. They saw it in the looking glass. They're going underground military bunkers and nuclear bunkers worldwide. Some people know the truth. 227, the Shern shuts down, and that's the end date. If you don't cross over by that date, over the next 20 years, you're going to 6 mass extinction strip in the 6th sense for the 6th time in that 27-year stretch from 220 to 247. So after 227, that's when it's cut off and the point of no return if you don't cross over. And over the next 20 years, you see the 6th mass extinction going to strip from the 6th sense for the 6th time, going into massive global extinction. A depopulation and nature. God has a plan, as you see in the Bible, and that's warned by Jeremy Givers and the top scholars in the whole world on the New York climate clock, right? Nature will take its own course. As you see animals going around circles over the earth, dying all over the world. 550,000 cattle died like this in Australia, 80,000 horses, 500,000 in Kansas, 600,000 sheep, and they're dying in Africa. Birds falling out the sky in 580 locations, losing their vertigo, Hawaiian syndromes and peer reports worldwide, escalating out of control. Every mental disorder defect you die prematurely from is losing magnetic pulse. Hawaiian syndrome is a zombie apocalypse and a body snatching virus declared worldwide, right, where people are losing all their magnetic pulse because they lost their sixth sense and their 27 biospheres because they didn't have any faith in their own biological genes to use their own natural selection life with the natural animals in their biological genes, with natural selection, a natural order with genetic memory and a genetic process with ancestor tools. They don't want a crossover. They'd rather be an artificial human being and only care about themselves and their own opinions, trapped beyond the point of return in denial. That's why it's the end date on that day. These are the most powerful prophecies in the Bible that lands on my date of birth because God cannot trust anyone else. And he knew that. He can't trust one person to be honest across the world or live in any truth at all. That's why these declarations are made on my date of birth, and they're 5 most powerful prophecies in the Bible, and they're all perfect. And these things have already unfolded. The wedding of the bride, the 2 witnesses, the world's biggest army, the most powerful declaration on earth, and 99.9% of witnesses only live in their own truth and their own opinions, and they will not be saved if they don't go back in the primal state and they don't have faith in me, because who am I? You were told you will not know who I am. You will not know who I am. I am the last witness in the world that comes through the resurrection and protect the elect. I am the only one of a kind worldwide in every declaration made. One of a kind. I can do everything Christ can and more and bring someone back to life and cure the human condition that's going to save humanity. I'm the one and only. I'm the son of Christ, son of David, son of Abraham. And you will not know who I am, but you know by the moons and the stars, most powerful biblical prophecies that land on my date of birth, and the most powerful declaration ever made in human history. And I've already done this. I put my mark on earth, and I'm the only one of a kind. Learn who I am. Watch my videos. Read the documents. Do the research. And wake up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap before it's too late.